Yeah.
Oh,
Getting the live stream going here. Hi, Thomas. Hi, Reggie. Hi, Julia. It's the SEC Growth Data Science staff meeting for August 9th. And two outside of GitLab shadows today, Reggie and Julia. So Reggie, you want to quickly introduce yourselves as others join and let Thomas and I and others know who are going to watch the recording or come a little later, what any initial, like what you've gotten out of the shadow program so far and any questions you may have for Thomas and others who joined. So Thomas is a senior engineering manager who in charge of the secure stage and does a lot of strategic planning of both technology and people, which is actually one of Julia's interests. And also on various of Thomas's teams has front-end engineers, which is a space that Reggie is looking to get into. But Julia, I want you to quickly introduce yourself and let us know what impressions you have of the program so far.
yeah, so my background is I'm military for 12 years now, looking to get out and into the software space. So a friend of a friend of a friend recommended this program and I got into it. And so far, it's been pretty mind-blowing to watch and be behind the curtain of what actually goes on at a software development company and the services that are provided. Question-wise, I wish I had the expertise to formulate a good question. My plan here is to take notes and listen as best as I can, and then hopefully revisit them again in the future when I have a little bit more experience to actually fully grasp and understand the situation. So I'm just happy to be here, really.
Thanks, Reggie. And I was glad you were able to link up with Samantha, one of our senior front-end engineers, to talk about the front-end engineering space. So Julia, tell us about your background and interests and anything interesting you've learned so far in the shadow program or observations.
Hi, everyone. My name is Juliet. I manage a team of data analysts and reliability engineers, Netflix for game and animation, and also a tier 3 support team for games. It's really great to see how GitLab operates in terms of like how they collaborate through GitLab, right? I think it's sort of learning how the company works a little bit behind the scenes is really fascinating. I think what I'm interested in is that, as Wayne mentioned, it is sort of like how do you things around organization, strategy, execution of that strategy, and kind of like to be able to adapt to the changes in technology. I know that's pretty high level, but sort of how do you think through those changes, right? To get the best results for the business and understanding what the business overall strategy is. It's like you have your North Star and there's like, how do you implement that, right? And in your space, making sure staying grounded towards that, because sometimes we could go into the wilderness.
Makes sense. Thanks, Julia. So jumping to the agenda, we did our this round of promotions recently, where we're doing it every 6 months now. So I'll read Phil and Mons since they are not here. Oh, wait, Phil just joined. So I'll read Mons since she's not here. So congratulations to team members in AI Assistant, including Alexander Chushev, who was promoted to staff machine learning engineer. Thomas or Phil, do you want to take yours next?
Hi, yeah, sure. So congratulations to the following team members in Govan who were recently promoted. So Dominic is now a senior backend engineer, Sashi, staff backend engineer, and Alexander, a staff front-end engineer. A lot of work goes into promotions from the individual. Can take a lot of time. So it's a big deal. People get promoted.
Mm-hmm. I'll continue on the good news train. So we had 3 folks who were promoted in Secure. Adam Cohen, who's staff backend engineer in composition analysis. Oscar Tovar, who is now a senior backend engineer, also in composition analysis, and Vishwat Bhatt, who has also been promoted to a senior backend engineer, and he's in static analysis. So a lot of folks promoted in here this time around. It was good to see.
You mind taking yours and Neil's comments?
Well, I'll take Neil's. So Samantha's our newest front-end maintainer. Yeah.
Yeah, piggybacking off of that, Dheeraj is also now a front-end maintainer. So congrats to them both.
That helps so much. The more maintainers we have, the more that helps across the entire company of keeping the quality high and keeping the mean time to merge in good shape to get changes merged, et cetera. So that's great. So in news and events, I've got a couple things. So from Christopher's staff meeting. So FYI from the availability stand up is how do we deal with the engineering budget, especially on how do we deal with engineering budget given the outages and how they affect the report, since we had some incidents on availability in the last month. So the current recommendation, I saw this come up a couple times in discussions asynchronously, primarily with various EMs of, I didn't meet my budget, but I'm not sure if it's due to the incidents that were GitLab wide or had a large impact to the GitLab product, or it's specific to mine. So the current recommendation is that development team should hold until we get a better sense of the results when looking at July. Especially there's an issue link there and how to better mark infrastructure issues and error budgets, and a link to some discussion on it from Christopher's staff meeting. So please let your EMs know that, Thomas and Phil, and keep that in mind. That will save some headaches for them in trying to figure that out. The second item I will announce for Jay, I put my name on, is so we are specifically Jay is looking for volunteers to evaluate responses from ML models for code suggestions in an effort to help us choose the best models to give our users a great experience with the feature. So we're basically doing a vote up, vote down by the users on this. This is what the user typed. In theory, here's what the model recommended, thumbs up or thumbs down. Is it useful or not? Would you have accepted or not? So if you or your engineers are proficient in Python, Go, JavaScript, or C, please direct them to this issue and have them add their name onto the participants table and do a little voting. That'll give us some good ideas. I did a little bit of this myself where Reggie watched, and I don't know if you found that interesting or not, Reggie, but I did a little voting myself earlier today. And I got to break out my very rusty, but still fun to do C skills, which is one of the first languages I learned many years ago.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see the models and things that the AI was kicking out and why you would reject it or not. So highly recommend looking at it.
In the hallway, an FYI, I'm looking into doing the support shadow program, which I learned about from Fatima's blog, where Fatima did a blog on all the different shadow programs we have at GitLab, including the CEO one, the director shadow one, et cetera. So I'm looking into it. It looks like a 4-hour time commitment. It helps, learn more about the customer experience with more customer empathy. It's not, a full week. It looks like it's somewhat predictable. I think you do some training, you announce you're going to do it, and then you shadow certain support engineers for 1-hour segments with 4 different engineers over a week. So that should be interesting. But I need to find the time.
Yeah, this sounds interesting, Wayne. So you say there's a blog post which lists all of them. Is that right?
Yes, let me find that. And Thomas, you also have some comments I saw on you typed.
Yeah, I'm just looking for how to sign up because I've had multiple engineers in the past couple of weeks saying they would like to learn more about the challenges that support has in wanting to shadow.
I posted my issue that I followed the process, but that would be useful, right? Is the link on it. Oh, and yep, thank you, Summer. You found the page. Yeah, it maybe I'll be the guinea pig for our teams. I'm fine being that or fine not being that, but looks interesting. And I'm going to ask them to make me if they can, on if there are any support tickets related to secure govern or anti-abuse or ML things to link me into those. I think that'd be interesting. I don't think they'll be able to do that. That's not how they plan stuff, but I'll note that. Great.
Found it.
It's everything we have in the agenda. Based on what we discussed, Julia and Reggie, any questions for the group based on what we discussed or in general?
I would just have one question. I'm just kind of curious to see what your promotion process is. Do you have one in place? Like, how do you just high level, because we sort of just implemented one. I'm just kind of curious how different it is and what you think about when you think about promoting folks.
It is a process. There's a handbook page on it that has some good information. I'll give and thanks for putting it in the Zoom chat, Phil. I'll give you the overview. Managers identify who is ready to be or a candidate for promotion based on looking at the documented expectations of people, of team members at certain levels. So go from non-senior to senior to staff to principal. That's true of or manager to senior manager, or senior manager to director, et cetera. And then we have a template for writing up a promotion document that talks about the specific requirements for that role that the manager and that team member fill out. And it's specific to that role and also specific to our values of how does this person do with transparency and with diversity, inclusion, and belonging, and with driving for business results and other things. And then there's also a business justification. Why do we need someone at this role, at this level? And then it goes through peer review with another manager. Then the direct reports, then the person who's up for promotions manager. And then it goes through review by the manager's manager. And then it goes through peer review with that one of those person's peers. And then it goes through a bigger review that's less detailed, but a bigger review across the entire engineering team or entire development team based on levels to look at making sure we're doing things equitably and treating everyone having equity and making sure we're holding the bar on what's required to get to certain levels. And it's all the other things are generally done that I said prior, asynchronously, in writing and over a time period. That is a big, long set of meetings that are a necessary evil. I just don't like big, long meetings. Sometimes they go 3 or 4 hours. And sometimes over multiple days. It is the longest meeting I'm ever in at GitLab. And now it's every 6 months, thankfully, rather than every 3 months. And we basically do a defense of this and ask good questions. And from there, it goes to higher level approvals where it's even less detail, but making sure. And then we have the people team then looks at it as well in terms of compensation changes and timeframes. And then we communicate these things publicly. You saw us do that earlier on who got promoted when. That's a really super quick summary. We also post the promotion documents in our internal Slack and announce them internally so people know this is what justified this promotion, so that we have a lot of transparency around it. That's my summary. Phil and Umar and Nate and Thomas, you live this with me as well. Not all the process I described, but a lot of it. What did I miss, and what are your impressions on our promotion process?
Pretty good overview, Wayne. You did a good job. Career development starts with the individual, so it's driven by the individual. Managers there to support them in that process. Should be having those career development conversations regularly throughout the year, but there's a cycle for how we do that, and we do performance reviews as part of that as well. The link I shared with you has a preferred template for promotion documents, which highlights the areas that we look at. So it's values alignment is key, but also results and often business justification, depending on the role you're going to. There's 2 other links on engineering career development. Engineering career development and our specific process in development. I'll put in the chat there as well that are relevant, but I think Wayne covered most of the points there. Yeah.
I'll add.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah. It's a long process. It's lengthy. It's heavy. The calibration meeting, the multi-hour meeting that Wayne mentioned at the end is arduous, I think would be the word that I would choose. The hardest part, honestly, to me, is how does one make a compelling promotion case in a 3-page document and not go over that length, particularly for more senior positions.
That's one of our rules. The promotion document can't be more than 3 pages. And then the summary of it, where we do the all the directors, in my case, review, that is, we summarize that 3-page document in half a page. And then ask questions about that. And that's, how do you justify that to those who have never interacted with that person? Is a real challenge to do. But it overall, some of that meeting is arduous, definitely. But overall, the process works well. We hold the bar on what it's a fair process. We're making it equitable across all team members. We're setting that bar appropriately, and the net result is quite good. The process, I don't like complaining about something if I don't have a good idea for a way to improve it. I don't have any ideas on how to improve it. We've done little things like we announce when we switch from one person to another, because I'll tell you in that 4-hour meeting, I stopped paying attention because I've read the whole thing in advance until I get to someone either I'm presenting or I have feedback on, and I won't hear. So we announce, we put in Slack chat, we're moving on to person X. That actually helps a lot. Little things like that have improved, but overall it works pretty well. It's just, and I don't have any ideas to improve it much over current. Amar, I think you were going to add something.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed helps from the person being promoted perspective is having an accomplishment tracker throughout the year that they're adding examples to. And then when it comes time to add all the details to a promotion doc or go through and decide which ones are most impactful, that saved a lot of time at the end. Because putting together that promo doc, as everyone mentioned above, it takes a lot of time. So having something to pull from makes things a lot easier.
Great. That's a great question, Julia. Any other questions or comments on what you've learned in the program, Julia or Reggie?
Yeah, I actually did have a question following up with the promotions and how that goes. I noticed somebody said quarterly reviews. I was wondering if you guys worked on a scale basis with your employees, like in this area, you need a little bit of improvement, this area you're working well in, etc., and trying to elevate that person to the next role. Because I know reading through this document, it says that you promote based off of the performance they're already at, but what are you guys doing to increase that performance for the individual?
So we have a talent assessment process. I'll put we have a handbook page for that as well. Talent assessment. So we look at performance and growth as part of that. So performance is looking at what your role is and what we expect in that role, and that can be developing, performing, or exceeding performance. And then we look at growth, and growth has 4 growth pillars. Those 4 growth pillars, they're on the handbook page. I could read them out to you if I could remember what they were. Adaptability, expandability, consistency, and self-awareness. They're an indicator of when someone might be ready for promotion. It's one of the indicators of when someone's ready for promotion. So we work through that process. It's similar to the promotion process, where we're evaluating against functional requirements and these growth pillars, and we're looking at opportunities for individuals. What do they need to show us in order to reach that next level, or to move from performing to exceeding, things like that. So it's we don't use the term weaknesses, we use the term opportunities. It's things that we haven't seen from that individual. And then as managers, we'll work with those individuals to make sure they actually have the opportunities to demonstrate that behavior to us. Sorry, I'm just being eaten during the meeting. My puppy is ready to go out for a walk, but it's meeting day. Did that answer the question though?
Yeah, I answered it great. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great day.